DC vs. Vampires issue number 1 is written by James Tynion IV and Matt Rosenberg, with art by Otto Schmidt and letters by Tom Napolitano. And this book begins with a mysterious man by the name of Andrew Bennett heading towards the Hall of Justice when he's struck by a car which causes his cloak to drop, revealing he is in fact a vampire by the sun setting him aflame. Green Lantern then comes down to shield him and takes the wounded vampire inside the hall, where we meet Zan, one of the Wonder Twins, who asks Andrew questions about being a vampire and if Andrew is going to eat him. Andrew then tells them the story of Mary, Queen of the Vampires, who also happens to be Andrew's ex, who was murdered, and this lack of authority in the vampire hierarchy is what keeps the vampires from declaring war on humans. Hal naturally questions if Andrew killed her since they were enemies, which he denies, and continues to summarize his investigation of her killer, which takes him to the Legion of Doom, and it's there he sees a lot of dead villains, as well as discovering the vampires' plans for genocide of the human race. It's then that Andrew runs into Lex Luthor, who informs him of what happened and proceeds to give him both an address that he must go to and a vial of his blood. Under Lex's request, Andrew kills him and makes him run for it, which a vampirized Grodd and Scarecrow set off the alarms. Andrew then runs into a vampirized Riddler, who he kills, and concludes the rest of his journey until he got to the Hall of Justice. Hal, however, asks for proof when Zan says he can just go grab the League, in which Hal then captures Zan and reveals that he is also a vampire. But now that he's found out, Hal constructs a blender around Zan and mixes him up before drinking some of his blood and using his ring to create a small sun to vaporize Andrew after Andrew claimed he spoke to no one else. Hal then informs someone of the events that transpired over a phone call and cleans up everything before Aquaman walks in, letting Hal know about the meeting that's about to take place and questions him if he's seen Green Arrow. The book then begins to wrap up with us cutting to the Batcave, where Alfred hands Batman the letter from Andrew as well as the vial of Lex's blood. So now Batman's on the case and war will rage between the infected and the uninfected DC heroes. Where have I heard this premise before? I'm trying to think. Nope. Nothing's coming to mind. It was also interesting to see, well, at least Zan from the Wonder Twins, because it's been a while since I've read a book that, well, featured the Wonder Twins, and since we have had him already, we already know his sister is most likely going to show up at some point. Maybe the next issue, maybe 3 issues from now, but she'll be here. And if we know anything about the Wonder Twins, we can't entirely count Zan off just yet, because while his sister can turn into any animal, well, he can turn into any liquid. And I know typically we see that they have to be together in order for them to use their powers, but then again, you know, they could always change certain aspects. But it's when we saw Hal dump the blood in the sink and how that one droplet just fell down the drain, it made me wonder if Zan could indeed still be alive, and also made me wonder if we're gonna get to see Gleek as a vampire. And I'll say, this was a pretty interesting reveal. But why exactly did Hal reveal himself now? Well, if we recall that earlier in the story when Andrew first showed up, he asked for the Justice League and Hal said that there's no one else here. And then Zan walks in, and at the end of Andrew's story, Zan says, "Oh yeah, I just go get the Justice League, they're here," which informed Andrew that Hal lied to him. But it's also here we get the very interesting explanation of why Hal doesn't burst into flames and why he is able to go outside, and that's he uses his ring to filter out all of the deadly ultraviolet rays that would normally kill a vampire, which is a very interesting use for the ring. The book also does a good job with presenting that some of the heroes are already turned into vampires, and there's going to be this sort of interesting, who is, who isn't a vampire thing going on. Some trust issues will probably be brewing, and some vampires may even infiltrate the non-infected in order to learn about their plans. And sometimes when dealing with stories where vampires want to pretty much take over the world and commit genocide against humans, I always do wonder, what is the general benefit of taking your one and only food source and dwindling it down? I mean, I'm sure they'd keep a couple humans alive here and there, but if the numbers of the vampires are more than that of their food source, there might be some problems down the line. There are also a couple scenes in the book where I kind of laughed, whether it was intentional or unintentional, but I don't know why. The thought of Grodd as a vampire and the way it was framed kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Also, Hal deciding to go with a blender to try and kill Zan. I mean, infinite number of constructs that he could use, and he went with a blender. And even at the very end, after he's been tortured countless times, Lex Luthor told Andrew, here's my blood, and be sure to tell everyone that Lex Luthor saved the planet, because damn it, if I'm not gonna live through this, I am still gonna take the credit if we win. And I do look forward to seeing the importance of Lex Luthor's blood specifically, and how they are going to use that to fight back against the vampires. The artwork in this book is cartoonish, to say the least, but still is pretty bleak in its presentation in some areas, specifically during Andrew's flashback sequences, where it's just, painted in red, like everything's red. Even the text bubbles and caption boxes are red. And while I wouldn't call it an amazing story by any stretch, I thought it was still a fun and enjoyable Halloween read. And with that, I'm going to give DC vs. Vampires issue number 1 an 8 out of 10. So DC vs. Vampires issue number 1. What did you think about this book if you've read it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. And if you liked this video, I'd love it if you'd smash that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these 2 videos. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.